Hi, my name is Benny Johnson. As some of you know, I've been struggling with addiction. However, I decided to change my life and went into recovery. I started this podcast 90 Days Clean, and I want to take you along in my journey. What does lie ahead of me? Let me be frank, I do not know. Will I ever drink again? I do not know. This is how Stairway to Redemption was born. It is my search for answer in a real-time process of what is going to work for me. It is then my aspiration to help you figure out what's going to work for you. It is our journey together. All right. Welcome to Stairway to Redemption, another episode. This episode is a very, very special one. I'm welcoming my good friend, dear friend, one of my best friends with me on this podcast called Tomo. For those who don't know, Tomo is one of the two. Actually, he's the one who called my mother who snitch. I would better say, oh no, I'm just kidding. But who called my mother for me to go back to rehab. I mentioned him in previous podcast. I don't think I mentioned him by name, but him and my good friend, other friend Neil, had the presence of mind of after not being able to they saw that I was slipping into deep and deep addiction and I was not being myself anymore, and they took the initiative to reach out to my mom. And Neil should be the ideal is Neil to come. I think Neil's going to join us later. But so Tomo had that great idea of him being a guest on the podcast to tell us his perspective of what was, let's say, some kind of intervention. uh yeah, and guys, I didn't hear his part of the story when he called, so that would be new for me too. And I don't know how I feel about this episode. I have mixed feelings, but I'm very eager to know what happened. And so let's start with the introduction. For now, we have Tomo, and hopefully Neil is gonna join us. Tomo, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be on this podcast. I'm
Mm-hmm.
so happy that you are on the stairway to heaven and that we are all with you.
Stairway to Redemption, man. This is not
Yes, but yes, redemption for me means heaven. I'm always increasing the stakes. This is the way I do, and this is why I called your mother, because I'm raising the stakes, so that we get to a solution and we don't get to just a better point. I want
yeah.
all of us to be in the best ever possible.
Yeah.
Well,
By the way, I don't want to be sued by Led Zeppelin because said Stairway to Heaven is a song of Led Zeppelin. Just putting it out there.
yes, just putting out there, Stairway to Heaven is actually from Dante Alighieri from the 14th century of Italy. So even Led Zeppelin could be sued by Dante Alighieri if he could. So just saying, and if we can even forget about the stairway. We can think about a lift, a fast speed, bullet speed lift to redemption and heaven. So I'm very happy to be with you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tomo. By the way, Tomo lives in Luxembourg, which so there's a 6 hours difference here, and like that's and he, like you can tell, he's very educated. Like he knows a lot of stuff, and yeah. All right, so sorry, I'm laughing right now, but let's start. So the first thing is the state of the mind address. So Tomo, what's going on with you lately? Tell us something more than I'm just doing fine.
Benny, I'm a point in my life. I was born in 89. I am therefore soon to be 34 because I was born in November. And I'm a point in my life where I want to really move forward, but in every fields of my life. So meaning that I'm trying to become a better father for the two children I have, who are pretty young, 3 years and a half and 1 year and a half. I'm trying also to be a better servant in the noble term of the European Union, where I work as a sustainable finance officer. So I'm trying to push forward transparency, accountability, and reliability of sustainable finance worldwide. I'm also trying to push for peace in these times where we have wars in every continent, almost, or I shouldn't even say almost, where we have conflicts, where we have violence every day. And I think that there's the need for dialogue across religions, across stereotypes, and also with regard to addiction. So this is why also I'm committed and I'm so happy to be on this podcast, because I would like the mentalities of the people to change about addiction and about any weakness, any sickness that may exist in this world, because addiction is just one of them, and it shouldn't be treated in a different manner. If someone has an issue, people should solve them and not blame them. This is my take, and this is also the take of Neil, whom I hope will be joining soon or in another episode. But this is why I think that my state of mind is to try to be better than yesterday, and to be better in the sense not only for my own ego, for my own personal, single, small situation. I would like to contribute to the improvement of the society in the line of the spirit of the founding fathers of the US, of the founding fathers of the democracy in France, of the founding fathers of the European Union, and of the United Nations. I would like a world without a third world war. So this is my state of mind at this stage. Thank you so much.
Damn, man. Can I say something? I love you, man. I'm in love with you, man. Like that kind of intro, you cannot beat it. Like who can you're a true diplomat, my friend. Like,
but I am your friend. I am your friend, and I love you too. And this is why I'm trying to give the best that I can do. I hope I'm not speaking too much. I'm sorry if I'm too talkative. I'm French and Japanese, but my wife and my mentors are Italian, so I'm becoming also Italian myself, and I'm speaking far too much, also with my hands. So I apologize to the audience at this stage. So sorry.
I can listen to you for hours, man. But I'm not sure everybody on our platform podcast can. So like,
for sure not. Let's go. Let's cut to the point.
But like, I really like your state of the mind address, because we're gonna talk about what you mentioned later, the mentalities and like um the stereotype that people have about those who are addiction, and those how society treat them. Definitely, we're gonna talk about that. But first, I want, since you are not in recovery yourself, I'm not gonna ask you to tell us your story with addiction. But I'm gonna ask you to tell us what's your relationship with alcohol and drugs.
So, myself, I have a French and Italian relationship to alcohol. So I'm drinking for pleasure. I'm not addicted. I love it so much. I just had a few glasses at lunch, and I do this occasionally. And my way is not quantity, is quality. So I spent less, let's say in absolute volumes, but more for a single glass. So I won't give French or Italian regions beyond a few of them that you might know in Piemonte, in Tuscany, in Burgundy, in Champagne, of course. But apart from this, because no, but also it's important to say that it's not that alcohol is
Mm-hmm.
forbidden. You, if you go to
Mm-hmm.
the mass, and I'm not Christian, but the wine of
Yeah.
the blood of the Christ is wine. So you
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't
Yeah.
think that the alcohol is completely forbidden. Yeah. And in
Mm-hmm.
Buddhism either, yeah, depending on the different schools, it's not forbidden. The question is about finding the right balance, not losing the control. It's all about this.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope I'm not, discouraging the people that are on their path to redemption and are completely sober, not drinking any single drop. I'm just saying
Mm-hmm.
the way I see it, which is about being on balance. So, for example, I'm a new driver, and as a new driver in Luxembourg, I shouldn't drink any single drop of alcohol. So, if I know I drive, I don't drink any single drop of alcohol. Full stop. Anyway, so
Yeah.
about addiction, I can say that in my family, from my mother's side, who is from Champagne, and from my father's side, who is from Fukuoka in Kyushu in the south of Japan, I think that for sure on the French side, imagine Champagne, of course, but also I think even on the Japanese side, I have some ancestors that unfortunately had issues with addiction to alcohol.
Mm.
And alcohol is everywhere. It's part of our culture. But it's also, a way to try and escape from problems, from everyday life. And it is dangerous if you don't have it under control. So what I can say is that I have more, closer to me, an uncle who had issues with alcohol and also with drugs, and so it's. It's not that he only had issues, but he was also taking. So he was trying to redeem himself, to get healed, and to
Mm-hmm.
lose its addiction with treatments. He was taking the substitutes to these drugs, and he never fully uh, achieved this loss of addiction, and basically 2 years ago, I um, I had an intuition that he was not doing well, as the same as I had an intuition for you, and I called him, and this was exactly, yes, September, end of September, and he was completely disoriented, and he thought I was with him while I was 1,000 kilometers away, and he was at the
Mm-hmm.
hospital. And so I asked my mother to go to him, and and unfortunately, because it was quite far, when she arrived, basically the police told her that he died, and he died 100 meters from the hospital. So the hospital checked him and said that he was all fine. And a few hours later, he passed away next to, within the park of the hospital. And because I saw his phone afterwards when I went to the police,
Mm-hmm.
I was the last one to speak to him. I was the last call. I was on the line with him, and uh, and and he told me that he loved me and that he was coming to me. And these are his last words. So,
Oh wow.
so with my mother, we sued the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and the doctors are using medical secret as a way to escape questions. But medical secret applies to the ones that should be healed, not the ones that are healing people. And as the
Mm-hmm.
family, we have the right to know what happened. So an affair a case has been opened, it is with the judge and has been 2 years. So we will see. So you can imagine also that after hearing this, my grandmother, who was 89 at the time, could not survive very much. Also, she had already lost 2 kids in a young age, one daughter when she was 8 and one boy when he was 17. So it was the third children that she lost in dramatic, in terrible conditions. And so she was at the hospital, losing all her how do you say immunity defenses, and so also the medical system is what it is. So we had to fight so much so she could get a fair treatment. And anyway, because I could speak for days about this, but the point I want to make is that addiction has been a poison for my family, not only for this generation, but for past generations. And addiction, whether to drugs, whether to alcohol, doesn't matter. It's just a symptom that there is some despair, I think, that there is some deep unhappiness in the people. This is my take. If people do things that they know are harming them and they are doing it still, it is because they are deeply unhappy, they are deeply sad. And it's a way to escape. This is my interpretation. There might be others, but this is my take. And I think that these people should be helped, and that there shouldn't be any shame about this. Because, for example, my uncle, I only discovered with the police that he had never stopped this substitute to his drugs, although he had told us for 10 years. So he had lied to us. It's not about the lie. It's because if we had known, we could have helped him even better. And I'm not saying we would have saved him. Maybe he would have still died at this moment. We never know. But in any case, I mean, what I want to say, and I told you, Benny, like, you don't have to hide anything from me. I'm your true friend. I'm your true brother. If you tell me you have done anything wrong, I can hear this. And the same as Neil said, I remember this exactly. He told me, we don't judge you, only, and as Tupac would say, and as many would say, only God can judge, only God can judge, I don't believe in God. I'm Buddhist, yeah. I don't believe in God, but still, only God can judge, yeah. So who am I to judge you? Yeah? Who am I? I'm nobody, I also myself have weaknesses. Yeah. Maybe if I would be in your situation, I would be worse than you, Who knows? So I'm here to help you because I love you. This is the only point, If I judge you and if I think, he's doing this is bad, what a bad guy, Who am I? I mean, am I happy? Am I better than you? Of course not. So this is what I want to say. And to conclude, Victor Hugo said that.
Jesus, man.
Yes.
Let's go.
He said 2 things. He said 2 things. Yeah. He said 2 things. He said, love is an act. This is the first point. So if you love somebody, you should act. It's not enough to just pray or just say, I'm thinking about you. No. You should take actions, concrete actions. And this for me was, for example, calling your mother, which I know is not nice. It's not a pleasure. But this was the only action I could take because I was 10,000 kilometers away from you. Otherwise, I would come straight to you. Yeah. If I could, I took it. I should have taken a flight and so on. And it was difficult. So I thought the best, most efficient way in this really, how can I say, it's a alert situation. In this cas de force majeure, it is to call your mother. It's the last resort I have. It's the last thing I can do. So it is your mother. I'm not calling the police. I'm not calling, I'm calling your parents. and I had met your mother. So I thought that, and if I myself, I'm a father, and I would
Mm-hmm.
prefer to know from anybody to tell me, look, please, please go and speak to your children. Yeah, they are not in
Yeah.
good shape. I would love to hear this rather than hear later that something really bad happened to them. Yeah. So
Yeah.
because shame is one thing, but losing a child is the worst thing ever. There's nothing worse than losing a child.
Yeah.
So, and the last quote of Victor Hugo, it's in the same way. It is, I would say in French, ceux qui aiment sont ceux qui luttent. So those who love are
Mm-hmm.
those who fight. And love in action means fighting. It doesn't mean, just sending roses and being cheesy. It's about making actions that are not easy. It's about being determined. And whether it is for your friend, for your brother, for your mother, for your partner, for your wife, for your husband, doesn't matter. You have to fight.
Mm-hmm.
It is a struggle because life is not easy. Because people get sick, and sickness can be addictive, can be being addicted to something. People get old. It's just natural. People can die, of course. We will all die. So, so in this context, I think that we have to be bold. We need courage. And if you see an example of somebody fighting, you feel more eagerness to act yourself. And this is what
Oh.
I felt with Neil, because I don't want to just say I've done everything alone. It's not true. Neil had
Mm-hmm.
really decisive actions he made, and without
Mm-hmm.
him, I wouldn't have been able to call your mother. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
We
really
can.
the two of us, and I want to highlight this. And
Mhm.
this is for me uh, true love, and it's not love in the platonic sense. Yeah, there's nothing,
Mhm.
no strings attached. It's about real love, which means caring about people.
Mhm. No, I mean you said it beautifully, man. Yeah. What an ordeal. Yeah. So, now, you know, could you take us through the exact step that Neil and you guys took? Because I don't think I hear that story. How how did you guys got together and decided to call my mom? Like, if you could tell us to like the steps, what happened?
So I will speak.
Because you guys don't even talk to each other that often. I
No,
think so,
no,
right?
not at all. We do sometimes because we are 10,000 kilometers away, so we don't see each other every week.
Mm-hmm.
And we speak to each other, I don't know, every year, something like this. We were, for those who don't know, we were part of Delta Upsilon colony at the University of Pittsburgh.
that we try to,
We tried
yeah.
to establish
Uh,
fraternity, but whatever. We are true friends.
yeah.
And we were seeing each other very often when we were in the US every week, almost every day. And then of course there's distance, but it doesn't mean that distance means distance from the heart. So we always cared about each other, and we met whenever we could. Each time I came to the US, I met both of you, and each time you both came to Europe, we also met. So just to say that basically we noticed separately that you had a strange behavior, not in an obvious manner, but you were asking some questions, you were not answering, you were being evasive. You were, yes, you were. Yeah, I'm saying the blunt truth because I think it's better that people hear this. And I hope you won't be you you won't be mad at me. But for example, you ask me, yes, I have this Real Madrid football game, and I also love Real Madrid at home, and I
Mm-hmm.
would need actually have a problem with my credit card, and can you make me a small transfer, very small, just to pay for the game per view, whatever. So very small, really like not significant amount, very very small, but I thought, is it strange? Yeah. Why would one ask for this? Yeah. So anyway, and then Neil told me, the same things about whatever video games. Can you send me this video game? Whatever. So they were strange things, not big, very small. We're talking about really amount for a meal. Yeah. Not nothing serious.
Mm-hmm.
But coming from you, it was strange. And also because you were not answering, you were very evasive, and we knew you had in the past some issues, and we knew you had issues in your professional life. So we suspected that you had bigger issues. And then you told me very straight, so not being evasive, that you had problems, and you asked for my help for, again, very, very little, negligible amounts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't care at all. Yeah. And of course I did it, but you told me clearly you had this problem. So, and the fact that you admit it, yeah, you were, very clear to me. Again, we thought, okay, we have to do something. So we try and speak to you, we called you and so on, but it was difficult to interact with you because you were in this spiral. And then we realized, okay, if he's not speaking to us, somebody should come in person and see him. Because if he doesn't pick up the phone, it's the last thing we have to do. So concretely, I am 10,000 kilometers away. This was, so my wife at that moment was still pregnant of the second child.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also, maybe, yeah, he had just had a baby quite some kilometers away, and we thought, okay, I mean, the persons who care the most about you in general should be your parents after your friends, first of all, because they gave you life. And we knew that maybe the relationship was not always easy, as for everybody, between you and your parents. And I told Neil, look, I will try and find the contacts of her mother, of her sister, of his brother, of his father. So I looked for the internet everywhere. I tried to write even to the employer of your mother, with no success, with no avail. So I couldn't find. And Neil managed to find the contacts of your parents. He's the one who found them, and was not easy, but he made it. And then I immediately called your mother, and I told her, look, I'm very, very, very anxious about Benny, because I think he's really in a bad situation. I cannot say much because I don't know for sure, but I suspect he's having some issues with addiction. I suspect. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but he's not having a normal behavior. And she confirmed to me the same. And she was really desperate, but I said, please, save your time, save your heart. Don't talk about despair. Don't think about being guilty. This is just a reflect of society as a whole. It's not your fault. It's not even Benny's fault. This is a situation that happens very often. So there's nothing to be ashamed of, but please go to him. I know it's, I don't know, 300, 400 kilometers, a few hours of drive. Please go to him as soon as you can, because I think it's really a situation that deserves immediate action. And she did it on the spot. And I think it was the best thing to do, and it had an immediate result. And then with Neil's wife work also in the health sector, and she provided Neil with some options, some ways to deal with addiction, and we provided all the information we had to your parents. So I was in direct contact with your father and your mother, and I was so thankful to them to take an action to save you, and they were the same for me to be so open about this. And for me, it is all natural. It should always be like this, because if you care about someone, there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah. Yo, man, that's crazy, man. Like I felt like conflicted about doing this episode because I was like, oh my god, that's too much emotion for me. And I try to get myself ready. So if I cry, I cry, but I'm not crying right now. But from my point of view, I remember when because my dad works abroad, and he sent me a text. It's like, heads up, mom is coming, to pick you up. Like, and I like, he said like, oh, Tomo, your friends, Tomo and Neil call mom. Like, she's coming. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm texting my mom. I'm like, do not come. I'm doing fine. She's not even answering. She's not picking up. She just shows up at my door, and she sit down and she start crying. And bro, that's that's when I knew I fucked up, man. Seeing your mom sitting down there, not saying anything, crying and telling you you're gonna die. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, man. This, you know, I'm jokingly saying that this episode should be named like Snitches Get Stitches, but like the true feeling is a feeling of shame, like that. Imagine it's when you snap out of it, it's like, how bad did I fucked up that my best friend had to call my mom and I had to watch my mom cry in front of me? Like, that's when you're like, holy shit, like I fucked up royally. Like, there's no, because I remember few few weeks probably before you called, Neil came Neil came to my place and we had a discussion, and he knew I wasn't doing well. And I'm like, and I told him like, man, I don't know, man. I don't feel like I'm reaching my bottom yet. Like, I always had a plan to fix things, no matter what. And he said something that, like, I just remember now, that's profound. He said like, yo, if you reach your bottom, I'll be there next to you. He didn't say like, oh, he wasn't patronizing. He wasn't, he understood clearly that I had to snap out of it myself. And from my point of view, if I could describe now that I have much more clarity how it felt, it was like being in a fog, right? Being in a fog, the fog gonna disappear, right? But meanwhile, you need to navigate and move forward somehow. But you're like surrounded by cliffs and ravines, so you might fall. You don't know how to move. You certain that, like, the fog gonna disappear, but meanwhile you need to move forward and you need to survive somehow. And man, like, it's that navigating and not knowing where you're going that was like, yeah, like the word despair. The word despair was that you use is a good word, and yeah. Even right now, when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, those motherfuckers, man, they call my mom, bro. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I have your mom's number too. You don't
Yes,
pay the
call my
electric bill.
mother.
I'm calling your
Yes,
mom.
call my mother. No problem. No
I'm
problem.
so salty about it. Hey, wait.
We've just got joined by Neil.
So it's going to be a little bit cut, but what we were talking about, and he jumped in at the right time. Tomo was talking about how, from his point of view, what it was like to call my mom, how you guys decided the step by steps, what he went through. And I was just describing what it felt like to me, to see my mom come and having to see her cry. And because, she told me, like, yeah, you're going to die. But yeah, Neil, welcome, by the way. Hi.
Thank you.
Yeah, Neil, if you want to tell us really quick what it was like for you to, how did you even find my parents' number, man? Like, what happened?
Well, I actually used a legal search engine, public records, I think, to get your mom's phone number because uh, originally our plan was to try to get it from your brother Jeremy, but we
Mhm.
didn't have his number, and I thought maybe uh, Will Carroll would have it, but he didn't have it either. Um, So yeah, I think that's we changed the plan and went that way. So
Yeah. And I was talking about also, yeah, so I guess that's how you, but I was bringing up at the right time. The time, I don't know if you remember, but so I was telling Tomo that from my point of view, it was like operating in a fog, where like I knew the fog will dissipate at one time, but meanwhile I had to navigate life somehow. And it was like I was surrounded by cliff and ravines, and I could fall at any time. Even though I thought that things will get better, but I remember like few weeks, maybe a month or two before, you guys called my mom. You were at my place. You spent the night, and I remember a discussion where I said, like, yo, man, I don't know, man. I feel like I haven't reached my bottom because for somehow I always had a plan. Things were always manageable, barely, but I felt like I could manage this thing down without help. And you said something that was very profound. You said, like, I will be there next to you when you reach your bottom. And I was, I don't know if you remember that conversation. Like, do you?
no, vaguely. There are
Yeah,
many
I mean,
conversations
it was
there are
just,
many conversations like that.
yeah, there were many, but like, yeah, man, like, I don't know, man. Back in the day, man. I mean, I'm telling Tomo, I'm really grateful for what you guys did, and we're just before you show up, we're just jokingly. I was just jokingly saying, whose idea was it to snitch? That like, you guys don't pay your electric bill, I'm calling your mom. You don't pay daycare, I'm calling your mom, man. Like, but it comes from a situation that, imagine how badly it made me realize when my mom had to come and cry. I had to see her cry. It made me realize, damn, how much had to fuck up in order, because this is like the break the class in case of emergency situation. Like, bro code, you never tell on each other, especially to the mom. But it made me realize right away how bad it was. Like, that if you guys
You
had
were
to do
out of
that.
control. You were out of control.
That's
It was.
fair. That's a fair
I
assessment.
remember.
No.
Hang on. Can I have a beer while we do this?
Yeah, of course, man.
Need one after that crazy move.
Yeah, I don't mind, man. Like, you're not in recovery. You
I
fine.
remember that close to when you finally went, I'm trying to get you to go, and you're like, oh, we're going to talk on the phone, and you're like, I can't, like, I can talk later, maybe like 2:00 or something like that. And like, meanwhile, you're on fucking Instagram Live or something, DJing, like, with just huge speakers at your house, like blasting music out the window and stuff. Just looking so fucking coked up. Oh my God. So fucking funny. Yeah. So
I mean,
you're like,
yeah,
yeah, what's up? I'm like, what? Fuck? What the fuck?
yeah, man. I remember that. Yeah, man.
I don't
I was in my
know
world, man.
what's up.
You know what's funny, man? Like, I didn't give a shit,
I
man.
know.
Like,
It's like,
in that time, yeah.
um,
Oh man, that's hilarious. You know,
now we laugh
but
about
like,
it, but
no, yeah. Now we
time,
can laugh about it, but
what the
you
fuck?
imagine?
No,
Yeah, yeah. Like, no, I did
you're a
a bunch of
success story,
questionable
Benny.
things. Oh,
You're
so
fucking,
man, please shut the fuck up.
you are.
No, man.
For every person like you,
I'm a
there's like 100
troublemaker.
people who aren't successful. Like,
Yeah,
so
but like, yeah.
there,
Now that you
yeah,
join,
it's
oh,
gotta be.
yeah. Yeah. Now that you join, we can board this thing that's a bit sensitive that I wanted to talk about. Unfortunately, like the three of us, we lost people that we know in addiction. I want to, especially talk about our friend Iggy. And, immediately after Iggy passed away, there was a poor love. By the way, Tomo is the first one who noticed, who hit me up. Then I think I hit you, Neil. And, there was an immediate pour of love on social media. We knew also that Iggy wasn't doing well. He was struggling. But like, I feel like that when he was struggling, when people in addiction struggle, nobody wants to do anything with them. But once they pass away, they die, everybody's really quick to be like, oh, gone too soon, RIP, the whole BS. Why do you think there's a contrast between those two situations? Like that inactivity while they are struggling, and then that all sudden conversions once they dead. Let's go with Tomo first.
No, please, Neil. No, Neil was ready.
Wow.
Neil, please go ahead, Neil. I don't want to cut. I don't want to cut you, Neil. Please go ahead. Go ahead. I'm
No.
following you.
All right, go ahead.
You are the president of the
No, I was just gonna
colony,
say,
and you are still our president. I still consider you as your president, and I can be your prime minister if you accept me. Thank you.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead,
Go ahead. Someone, please go ahead.
No, please, ladies first.
No.
Ladies
It's Benny's
first.
show. It's Benny's show.
No, man. Sorry, man. I was just
Benny, you are the host. You decide, okay? I think it's fair to let Benny
fight.
let
Oh, God.
Neil,
Fight to the death.
Neil speak first because he wanted to say something, and I'm still thinking.
Okay,
I'm slower.
Neil
I'm
wanted to say
slower.
something.
I'm slower. So please, Neil, go ahead.
I think it's not necessarily incompatible for those two ideas that people are grief stricken when someone dies, but when they're alive, inactive, I guess, to help them. And the inactivity to help them is because addicts are like notoriously difficult people in terms of pretty much everything, like receiving help, the top of the list, and others feel that once you're in the throes of that, there's almost nothing that they can do. So that's why they don't do anything. They feel like it's not going to have any effect. So they can still be sad. I mean, even at that time when they're inactive, I think they're sad too. Like they're sad at that point. So I think that it's not like an all of a sudden sadness after the death. I think that even when they're alive and people are aware of the addiction, they're sad about it.
Yeah. Like Tomo, do you want to go for after I expand on it? Like because I have a question right after that.
That's why
Yeah,
you're.
if I may, before you follow up with another question, I would like to comment open
Mm-hmm.
what Neil has just said, because you see, it's good to listen to Neil first before I speak, so I can have an even more articulated argument. No, I'm not joking, because you see, reality is complex. Reality is diverse. You can have, because I think the sense of your questions is to say, isn't there some hypocrisy, of some people? They don't do anything, and
Mm-hmm.
then people die, and then we are so sad, we are so sorry, but they didn't do anything when you were alive.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think it is part of the reality. Some people are hypocritical. They
Mm-hmm.
care about you. They say, I'm missing you, I'm thinking of you, but they don't do anything. And they say, I will call you, we will meet, we will do, but you don't see each other. And it is part of some superficiality that I would say, as a European, does not exist only in the US, but also in Europe. It's part of our modern societies. People say one thing and they do another. And this is a true situation. Yeah, it is just, and maybe I've done this even myself. Who never did it? Yeah, to tell somebody, yes, we will meet, we will call, and you never call back. You never follow up. Yeah. So this happens. So what I want to say is that there might be some laziness. Also, as Neil was saying, some people may feel powerless. What can I do to help this person? Because addiction is not an easy thing to fix.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult. So even if you understand this, what can you do? What kind of action should you take? So, for example, with Neil, the only thing we thought would be efficient, would be effective, would be to contact your parents, which
Mm-hmm.
is like, as you said, break the glass situation. Yeah, was the ultimate resort, but this was the only thing to do. And would everybody dare to do this? Maybe not. Maybe they wouldn't. They wouldn't want to bother. They might be shy. I don't know. So it's not easy to to take an action that can help people. So also, I don't want to blame those. I think, on the contrary, we should encourage those who care, who don't know what to do, to try and make the right action. So it would be good,
Mm-hmm.
for these people. And I think this episode can be maybe the start of saying, okay, what to do when you see somebody struggling with addiction. What should you do? Of course, you can speak to the person directly. This is what we did. But if you don't manage, what should you do? Whom should you call? Should you call the parents? Should you call the hospital? Whom should you call? Yeah. This is, I think, this could be really like, I'm not talking about morals, good or bad. I'm just talking, in a very American manner, what to do. What is the action take? Yeah. So be efficient.
I think
Yeah.
it's very
Action one,
circumstantial.
call the parents.
And
Yeah. So
who it is.
hands-on, exactly. Hands-on, no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Hands-on, what to do. So we thought calling your mother would be the right action, because we know the mothers usually, and this is the case of your mother, care
Mm-hmm.
and would make a difference. She gave you life, and she would make a difference. And we were right, and she did. So to conclude, I think that it is true. There might be some hypocrisy. There can be also people who are powerless. They don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it might be the first time you don't know how to deal with this. Yeah. Myself, I have lost an uncle. I know there were people who were struggling with this. So this was a matter that was really close to my heart, because I was not able to do
Mm-hmm.
the right action. I didn't know what to do. But for your own case, Benny, fortunately, thanks also to Neil, I was not alone. We did this, the two of us. We managed to find the right action and to take it with success.
Yeah, thanks, man. Like, and Neil brought the term of like success story. I'm not there. Guys, I will make you proud. I promise you.
Your podcast is
But
already a proof that you are on the right path, and
There's success,
you're successful. You're successful.
even if you
You're not
realize
over.
successful.
You're successful.
Can't
Where
take
you are now,
can't
you're
take it away.
successful because you're out of this spiral. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
success.
like I've been asking myself a question, like I journal and some questions. And I want you guys your input on this. Do you think there was a way for me to be this self-aware as I am right now without causing so much damage? Who wants to go first?
You elaborate on that question.
Like right now, I think I'm doing fine. I know I'm like on the other side, hopefully, of this, you know. But I'm more self-aware that, when I was talking about that fog that I needed to navigate, somehow, while I was surrounded by ravines and stuff. Now the fog has dissipated and I'm still navigating life through, ups and downs and low, but now I have tools in my arsenal to deal with anxiety, to deal with, like stress and stuff that don't require me going to do a line of coke or like drinking alcohol. But what I'm asking is, was there a way for me to get this level of awareness, of self-awareness, without having fucked up that much?
Yeah, like was it God's plan for you to?
Whatever, like higher power, God's plan.
I don't know. On the one hand, I suppose that you have this unique result that came from the experiences that you've had. Could you have had that result from a combination of other experiences? Like
Less detrimental. Less detrimental. Yeah.
I guess. Like, are there other universes where you don't do that, but still are the same? I don't know. Sometimes in this, if you change something in the universe, then it changes the rest of the history and all the other universes. But it's hard to say.
Yeah, I don't know either. I would like to think that there was a path for me to get it.
There's no
without.
There's no way to say that there definitively wasn't another path. So it's possible.
And I think I agree with Neil. Everything is possible.
It doesn't matter.
What can I say? Where there is a will, there is a path. So the question was, if you really had the will, the awareness to make a change, to solve the problem, you would have done it. With Neil, we tried everything we could to raise your awareness about the situation, about the gravity of the situation, and we didn't manage ourselves. So this is why we used the ultimate means, which was calling your parents. So perhaps you could have become aware of the gravity of the situation in a different manner. The proof, as a matter of fact, you didn't until your mother came. So I don't know. Maybe for example, when I spoke to you, I was trying to encourage you as a Buddhist to turn to the area of faith, to go to church, to speak to people, to speak to the priest, to speak to other believers. Because I think that faith is important in life. Whatever it means, it can be also a faith without a God, could be a philosophy, could be values, humanism, I don't know. It can be anything. But I think that if you don't have a very strong belief in some ideals, whatever they are,
Morale.
if you don't have these strong beliefs, it's very hard to face and to overcome the struggles of life. This is my very deep belief. And maybe there was another way, but in any case, it doesn't matter, because what matters is that nowadays you're in good health, you're doing this great podcast, among other great things you're doing, Benny. So I wouldn't, go back into physical questions. What about another universe? Could I have come aware about this? I think it is a fair question for other people who might be listening to this podcast and are still doubting about the gravity of their own situation. So for the others, it is a fair question. I agree. And for this, deep inside you, when things are not going well. You cannot lie to your own self. You can try to, but not to the end, because you always have some small glowing light in your heart, in your soul, that is telling you it's not going well.
Your actions will
You're
always.
taking another glass. You're taking another line. It can be another thing. You're not. You're working too much. You're not looking after your kids. You're too angry. You're not calling your parents. You're not calling back your friends. Whatever it can be. I would like to say addiction is much broader than just alcohol and drugs. It can also be work. It can also be sports. It can be anything. Yeah. So it's a matter that you're losing your freedom. This is what addiction means for me. It means losing your freedom, and it means that you're not having your free choice. You're making your decisions depending on something else. So I would like also to enlarge the discussion. If you are believing in whatever politician leader or religious leader or any leader for anything, and you cannot make your any choice of your life because of somebody's desiderata, somebody's preferences, it means you're not free. So and I think especially for the United States of America, where freedom is at the heart and is the central pillar of society, it is important to insist on the true meaning of liberty and freedom.
All right. Well said, Tomo. Last question before I give you guys the floor and we close this. As a society, like Neil said, and you also, Tomo, said, people don't know how to deal with, people who suffer from addiction. But let's be also, not be like all detrimental, all sad or thing. There's been a good push toward, talking about mental health and the mental health movement. What do you think will take to give that same energy toward addiction and not vilify people who are like in addiction? Like, will they take like another generation? Will they take again like another? Should like work make sure like work should be involved? You know how now all workplaces make sure that their employees are good in their mental health. Like, what's your position? How can we move forward? If you had an idea.
Neil, do you want to start?
No.
Or shall I start? Shall I start? So you have
Sure.
more time to think. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I will speak of the example of Portugal.
The first Portuguese example. Go ahead.
Yes, Portugal. So Portugal was, like many other Western countries, was hit by the problem, the chaos, the health issue of addiction to drugs. There were more than hundreds of thousands of young people that were sick, that had the sickness of addiction to drugs. And in this context, the politicians have changed their position, because before there was always a moral judgment to tell, but these are junkies, these are not educated people, these are, the poor people, some kind of rejection of this. But actually, in these years, I think was towards the end of the 70s, there was almost like one young person out of 4 that had this issue. And this was across the whole society. So you had politicians from the most conservative parties in Portugal that had this problem, this challenge within their own family. So they couldn't reject their own children, their own nephews. And they were saying, we have to solve the problem. So how did they do this? They went without shame. It means removing shame. We're removing the idea of let's leave these people out of society. So you had people who were having this problem that were isolated. And this means that, for example, the health care system, that the healthcare assistance that was provided to them was only in remote areas. This was removed. So there were some buses that were going to every place in Portugal to bring the treatments to the people, wherever they were, without any cost. This was all taken by society. So there was the removal of shame. And thanks to this, they could really solve the problem, because people started to talk about this, to try to make the right thing, and they managed to really reduce this problem really to almost zero. So I think it is not about just the person who is sick. It is also about the doctors, it is about the family, it is about the friends, it is about the employers, it's about everybody. So my point about mental health, it is the same. It is about the whole system. So I think if we all care about each other, we shouldn't fall too low. This shouldn't happen in the first place. If you see somebody that is not in a good shape, the first thing is to try and help the person. If everybody does the same, then we should all be fine. The biggest problem in society is not the people who are sick. It is all the people that are indifferent, or the people who feel powerless and do not dare to act. Because collectively, if we all try and give a hand, and even a hand or even a finger, but we are 10 to do so, we can really have the right action. So it's about the question of the system, I think. And also there should be no shame, to go to the doctor, whether it is a psychologist. I've been to the psychologist myself when I lost my uncle in the terrible conditions I described at the beginning of this episode. There's nothing to be ashamed of, And you said, Benny, also you might cry during this episode. Also, I cry every week because it's a way to express my feelings, And I'm very strong. So my tears do not mean I'm weak. On the contrary, because I don't think I have to be ashamed of crying. I can have tears of joy, I can have tears of fear, I can have tears of anger. Yeah, the most, and I love to have tears when I laugh. Of course, this is what I prefer, but it is just a matter of expressing one's feelings. And when you have tears, also you feel better afterwards because you're letting your emotions going out of yourself. So it's a matter of also of mental health. So I think we should stop to, pretend I'm strong, I never cry, and all of this. This is just bullshit. This is just bullshit. And being really strong is not to be ashamed of expressing its own weakness. And I remember a friend who is Catholic and who was explaining me uh, about the Mass and the fact that when one is eating the body of the Christ, I don't know, Neil, how do you call it? This small piece of, it's not bread, but the hostie, we say in French.
Eucharist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was telling me it is something that is so fragile, so delicate, so light that can be thrown away, that can be, broken, and it's so weak. But God is so strong that it doesn't matter to be weak, and the same applies in Buddhism. So when you are really strong, you don't care about the judgment of the people if they see you down, And on the contrary, the true people who love you, even if they see you down, they will come and help you. So admitting that you are down is showing that you're really strong. So I think that we should stop with the ego, the small ego that I'm so strong, I don't need help, and when one feels awkward, this person is sick for whatever reason. There can be also people who are having cancer, and other people, they don't dare to look at them, because they feel awkward. They don't like this. But they are weak because they cannot face the reality of life. And in life, there's also sickness, there's also aging. We are all coming to this at one time or another, whether it's you, whether it's your partner, your parents, whomever. So we shouldn't be ashamed of sickness, of weakness. On the contrary, we should be strong, and being strong means being together. So I think, and I'm sorry for taking so much airtime, that it starts from society. It starts from caring about your own family. It starts caring about yourself, about your friends. And it also means looking at the leaders, whether in private companies or in public institutions, in public circles, who are really caring about the people and are proposing concretely, not just in the air, concrete actions to take care of the other people. So I am from Europe. In Europe, we have social security. And this means that I support this also wherever it is, in the US, in the emerging economies, wherever. I think that health it should be a right. It shouldn't be something that some poor people or other people do not have access to. The minimum healthcare system should be the norm. And if you are one of the biggest economies in the world, I mean, you should be ashamed if you let people die because of sicknesses that can be treated elsewhere.
All right. Neil, you want to top that?
I like everything you said. That's awesome. What was the question though?
The question was like, what do you think like we should as a society change, because we made like very leap forward when it comes to like mental health, stigmatization, and like, it's not, yeah.
A big start. Need more of the soft healthcare services. I don't know if you will, I don't know if I call it that, but referring to mental health and addiction type services. A lot of stuff that the healthcare system is currently not really set up to deal with best way.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like Tomo was saying, changing the stigma around people who are down on their luck, essentially. The
Yeah.
and the belief in the idea that everyone's redeemable, even over and over if they have to be.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so we reached the conclusion of this interview. Thank you to you guys for being online. It was not easy to coordinate, but we did it. We did it because we have like somebody who decided to live like what 6 hours difference from us. And but all right, guys. So I really appreciate. Let me conclude with this. I really appreciate, man. I'm really grateful to have you guys in my life, and I cannot thank you enough for intervening, and because that was an intervention. Like there's no other way to call it. And guys, I love you. I love you guys with all my heart. I do love
Love
you.
you too.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. All
I
right.
love both
All
of
right,
you.
guys.
Both of you.
Yeah. Love you too.
All right, guys. I will see you guys for the conclusion.
Thank you.
Bye. All right, all right, all right. Big thank you to Neil and Tomo for this very special episode, dear to my heart. Oh man, I cannot be grateful enough to have such good friends who, without doubt, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys. Thanks, guys. I would like also to take a minute to thank you, the audience. Yes, you, the audience. Stairway to Redemption is now 1 year old, and this past year we had over 1,000 downloads, 1,043 actually to be exact. That's about 2.7 listens per day. Just to give you a perspective, that means 3 people are listening to this podcast a day. Doesn't seem much to you, but to me it's huge, and I really appreciate your support, guys, and let's see where the next year takes us. Thank you, guys, and I will see you next week. Bye.